why a certain event took place. Many officers confuse the why with the how. We'll give you an example to think about. You're sitting in the lobby and you heard a rock go through the front window. You ran and checked the front window and you saw John. John admitted to throwing a rock through the front window. Many officers are going to report they know why the window was broken, because John threw a rock through it. That's not the case. You've got to talk to John to establish the why, the motive, as to why he did that. You can only put why in your report if you had an opportunity to document from that personal interview with John. An example, John, why did you throw the rock through the window? Well, I was very upset and I thought it would be nice to hear glass breaking. So then you could put in your report a quote from John. John said why he threw the rock through the window was because he was very upset and he wanted to hear the sound of glass breaking. So remember, you may not always be able to use why in your report. Now let's look at some reports. We have a security officer here who has done his duty. He's completed a report. He's filled out certain lines on it, and it would appear, at least from the management standpoint, that not a whole lot happened during the course of his shift. Well, it appeared that he viewed it that way too, because we have here such phrases used as all secure, no problems, nothing at this time. There's always something at every time for you to report about. It could be the change in temperature, it could be the lack of vehicles passing by your particular location. There's always something, building condition, changing conditions. This report card doesn't show that the officer did very much at all. And in fact, it doesn't give him very much credit for the 8 hours that were put in to accomplish this report. There are a couple other critical mistakes that were made by this individual too. Lines are skipped. You're never allowed to skip a line in between a report. We're all human beings, and I think this officer was intending possibly on coming back later after an event might have happened and filling in the gaps so he could write his report now all the way for the rest of the night, and then do what? The times are also rounded. Nothing happens at a rounded time, all of the time, through every 8-hour shift. Apparently this officer believes that this is all that's necessary. I hope this officer's not you. Our next officer here realizes the value of space conservation. He's not skipped any lines, he's brought all of them together, and again on his shift, everything was all secure. With exception of the time he checked in, every time is rounded. Again, what I'm trying to help you realize is when your manager and your manager's boss, your client, reads a report, they want a report on what you did during the course of your shift. If all you have is all secure, it would appear that you did nothing at all whatsoever and there was no purpose to have you on property for the course of that shift. You're a valuable asset to management. They would not have hired you. You'd not be employed as a security officer if they did not expect you to do a professional job. Let's look at another report and see how that officer is doing. And this is a day in the life. Managers do go through this. This officer now is providing exacting times. He's become very elaborate about writing exactly what has happened. In detail, he's describing each of his moves. This is very good. We want to show exactly what happened from minute to minute. We do not want any time gaps. If, for example, you're posted in a particular situation, you're stationed in the lobby, then when you resume that station, you note the exact time that you did so. At X hours, I resumed my post at this station and observed the front door. When you left your station, you document the time that you were departing, you document what your intentions were at that point. You're now leaving to go on rounds to begin at floor number 10, and you're going to walk through and do a complete rove. You write what you find on your report as you find it. Field notes are something that we'll get into in a moment about proper report writing and types of reports that you can use. And a field handbook will help you tremendously. But I'd like you to look at this report for a moment and tell me what you believe is wrong with it. I think it's quite obvious, isn't it? This report fails to communicate the message in a readable manner. The officer has spent a lot of time, a lot of activity. He's very concerned about getting that information across to you, and paper is cheap, and that is acceptable. He's using plenty to get the point across, but unfortunately, it's very, very difficult to cipher. But again, this officer is trying very hard to get the message across. He's working very hard, documenting the who, what, where, when, how, and when appropriate, why. So what can we do to improve upon that? That's right, we can improve penmanship. Now we have an officer that is putting exacting times of when the event occurred. We know that this officer has a watch, is in control of the time, is aware, and is working very hard to fulfill the function in report writing and the duty of security, to observe, detect, and to report. We can see by this officer, by the amount of text that's concluded in the report, that this officer has begun an event and wants to tell you about it, has begun it in the fashion from when the officer first became aware of it, and is leading you through all of the steps that the officer went through and providing you with all of the information necessary to educate you so that you understand just exactly what took place during the course of this shift. Remember that these reports are the only eyes of management and proof of documentation for what you did during the course of your shift. If you're not writing within your report, what actually will you be performing? What duty will you be doing while you're at work? You certainly have the time to write a report. There is absolutely no excuse to not concentrate on it and write a report as good as you can. This officer, also being a professional, has made an error because the officer is also a human being. And as we talked about, you can see that there's been one line and a correction followed. One line drawn through the improper word and a correction following. This is perfectly acceptable. Remember, never completely obliterate the word. All you do is cause question and puzzlement to the reader. It's very frustrating. I know you would not like to get a call at home immediately following your shift from a very frustrated manager who cannot figure out the report because that manager is getting a very frustrated call from their boss, the client. Again, reports are something we see in our everyday life. When we go to the gas station with a ticket, when we read the newspaper, how would you like it if a report that could provide you with all of the information that you need to know didn't provide that for you? Now remember when we saw that first report? Let's take a look at it again. How does this look to you? Would you want to be turning in a report like that? I certainly hope not. No matter where you are, even if you're out in the field, out where there's no activity, there's no one, you absolutely cannot find anything to report upon. Review your area. Look at the scene. What has changed since the last time you made your round? Has the weather changed? Has the lighting changed? Has the temperature changed? You can always write important information, even if you're out in the middle of a cornfield. You can establish the accuracy of your observing. You're observing, the reward to that is information. Your boss has to have the proper information. Your report is the only way that he can get that from you. Provide the information you're paid to do, and you will grow with this career and make a very professional officer that's very proud to be on staff of any company. In a moment, we'll be looking at reports and their various different types. We've covered duty logs today. We've looked at the report sequence, R-E-P-O-R-T. We'll go on and look at incident reports and various other types of reports that you'll be writing during your career. Good morning, John. How are you today?
Fine, sir.
Good. We're going to go on now to basic security reports. We're going to cover many types of reports. In fact, first, John, can I have your notepad there, please? This is your most basic security report, and it will qualify as a report. The most important thing you need to do is documentation. If you have nothing else to write with, if you run out of a report form, don't stop writing. Get a good piece of note paper and continue. But we'll look now at some of the more basic types of forms that are in use, and I'd like to keep you in mind that there's no way today that we could show you every type of form that's in use. What we'll be looking at is a few of them and their general types of uses. Be sure to always speak directly with your site supervisor of your company as to exactly how those report forms will be used, if at all, during the course of your duties. John, could I see your field notebook, please? A field notebook. The first almost most important thing everyone should have. You must have some ability of taking notes while you're on rounds out in the field. Many officers will carry their daily log with a clipboard by them at all times. That's not a requirement. A requirement is that you have to have some facility for taking notes immediately when you come across an event. An officer's field notebook is a very, very good way to do that. Let's look at a basic log form. We've talked about those once before. John, may I have a form, please? Thank you. Here's another security report in another format, and you may see many of them. Keeping in mind each client may want a report form tailored to their own specific needs. A security report form, again, is something where you must observe, detect, and report all of the events that take place during your shift. Your daily log is most commonly found what's called on site or on property or on your post. So a daily log is what you'll be using in most times that you're in service at a stationary property. Another type of patrol that we use is vehicle patrol, and a special log is created for that. May I have the vehicle log, please? Thank you. A vehicle patrol log, again, like your daily log, is for the officer to note the times that he began an event, what he did on property, and exactly what he found while he was there or the absence of that. It is, in effect, something that has been adapted for a mobile officer who's going from location to location, maybe traveling various different cities throughout the course of his shift that evening. Visitor log. May I have the visitor log, please? Visitor log. Management likes to see a visitor log so that they can quickly get a glance on exactly who has been in and out of their premises. A visitor log will allow them not to have to sift through many, many types and pages of reports to try to glean from it exactly who has been on property. It'll show various types of things as the time they arrived, their name, the company, if they're escorted by anyone, or what type of identification that they provided to allow them on property. A package list. John? Many of the properties that you may work on will require that you document exactly what type of packages have been brought to the property, where they went, their destination, their size, time of arrival, and who picked up the package. Again, keeping in mind that you may or may not be using one of these, and it certainly may take another form of appearance for you. But we're trying to cover many of the basic things today to prepare you to be ready as a professional to know what to look for when you find various incidents during the course of your shift. Maintenance log. Thank you, John. A maintenance log commonly used and requested by management to have your security officer, yourself the professional, travel throughout the facility and document what may need attention by the maintenance manager. To then in your next round or your next shift when you return to property to document exactly what in fact has or has not been done about that particular article. Again, management likes to see this so that they can sort through all of the daily report sheets and get right to the meat of the matter. Your maintenance log will provide the type of information that allows the property to be run in a very professional manner and allows management to always be aware of anything of possible concern. Incident report. Thank you, John. An incident report. Something all of us will write at one time or another. An incident report is the microscope we were talking about that your report is viewed in. An incident report is written at any time there is anything out of the ordinary that needs specific explanation. An incident report provides you the opportunity to write in detail exactly what happened and to use as many pages of an incident report as you need to do that. Again, it may take varying different sizes and shapes and forms depending upon what your company and your client use, but an incident report is something that is going to be looked at very, very critically. It could be any type of an altercation that requires you to provide an incident report. It doesn't even have to be an altercation. It could be discovery of damage or something of significance that was not noted before in any other type of round. It could also be something that was told to you by an individual who came to you reporting something that may have happened even weeks ago. Because it is new to you, an incident report is the requirement that you must document who, what, where, when, how, and remember, sometimes why. Be sure to review your incident report, make sure it's organized, cover all of the areas of your incident report, and remember the good report writing skills that you've learned today. If you make a mistake, draw one line through it and continue with the corrected word immediately next to it. Drop slips. Drop slips are commonly used on a mobile patrol officer. He would use them to put specifically